It's 1 o'clock here in Geneva. My name is Claudia ten Hafe, and welcome to our third documents briefing. We've been holding 3 of these in this week, and today is the final one. Again, I'm joined by a number of my colleagues, and I will introduce them as we go along. And as you can see here, we will focus on specific documents. But let us jump right in, and I will guide you through it. As mentioned before, we are in the midst of all our preparations for COP 4.2, and so just to highlight again the main deadlines, the registration deadlines, but also the particular preparatory meetings that are in place, the online budget forum, the online technical documents forum that we spoke about yesterday, certain information sessions coming up, we'll be speaking about that as well, and items such as applications to side events. But with that, our focus is today primarily on the documents. And so with the view of the COP4 and its meeting times from Monday to Friday, this slide you have seen before, but just for orientation in case you had not seen this, of course, our COP convenes from the 21st of March until the 25th of March in Bali. The next slide is the tentative schedule of work. And the items that are shaded or surrounded in gold are the documents that we have not yet spoken about and we would like to briefly introduce to you today. These are documents related to the Wednesday session on program of work and budget, very, very briefly, but also the documents for the Thursday session that are planned for the Thursday session. And then we'd like to return just to some key items of organizational matters and others that would be tabled on the Monday session. So going into the next, just to recall, of course, that while we are prioritizing time in plenary for the deliberation of the COP, we will throughout make every effort to be able to support parties to also, where necessary, work in smaller groups, but that such smaller groups would either only convene once plenary has adjourned, or if plenary is ongoing, that only one group would be working alongside the plenary. Also, the tentative schedule is designed in such a way to ensure that substantive matters are handled first and in the COP week, and that decisions that come from there that will have budgetary implications are then ready for the program and budget group to be able to deliberate on, as this group would be convening from Wednesday onwards to be able to complete its work for the adoption of the budget on Friday. Also to highlight here is the credentials deadline, but my colleague Lara Ognibene will speak more to that in the logistics section, which is also just to note that while our briefings are about documents, we realize that a good COP preparation also includes logistics elements, so we've always reserved a bit of time at the end of these sessions for logistical matters. But with that, and as overview today, this is what we will be presenting to you, the session today, a very brief introduction to program of work and budget, and then going actually into the documents on capacity building, Secretariat, gender and international cooperation and coordination, and just stopping by the rules of procedure and financial rules. And then we go to some logistical matters. If you've missed any of the other sessions, we shall be posting all our PowerPoints and the recordings by the end of the week. But now, item 6 of the COP4 agenda is the item of program of work and budget, and there are various documents that have been prepared for this matter. May I just recall that, of course, program of work and budget was one of the most important elements of work for COP 4.1, and so we already have a decision on the program of work and budget for 2022. May I draw your attention in this regard to the meeting report that has already been posted of the first segment, the online segment of COP 4.1. That meeting report is document 428. But the COP has not concluded its deliberation on the entire program of work and budget, including the budget for 2023. And so this matter will be opened again, of course, at COP 4.2. For the entire program of work and budget, the Secretariat prepared the document 24, but for the specific work now related to adopting the budget for 2023, two new addenda were added to document 24, namely addenda 1, which is the proposed operational budget for 2023, and addenda 2, which sets out the indicative scale of assessments and contributions to the General Trust Fund for 2023. Both of these addenda, in other words, have been prepared in the interim between COP 4.1 and COP 4.2. They are both available on the website, and I would like to draw your attention to that. Just to say that the colleagues specific on program of work and budget are preparing for you not only the online budget forum, where you will be invited to present, record any questions that you may have for clarification or any other information that you may need to peruse the details of the budget in preparation for meeting at 4.2. And specifically, the details of the program of work and budget will be presented in a dedicated session, a dedicated information session in March, as indicated here. With that, I'd just like to also state, if I may just go back very briefly, that we also have, of course, the important information, some information documents, namely information document 21 on information on financial matters related to the previous biennium, and also information document 22 I'd like to draw your particular attention to, as these are the budget activity fact sheets that underlie also the work that is planned for 2023 and therefore give you a substance understanding of the program of work underlying the budget. Two other documents are mentioned here, partly to report to you as the COP on the work of the previous biennium, and also to report to you as the COP on the work ongoing with our partners. But with that, I would like to invite you to join the dedicated session with our expert colleagues on this matter for your budget and budget and program of work questions and queries. And with that, we go to the next slide. And I would like to invite my colleague Marianne Bailey to present this document. Please, over to you, Marianne. So, Marianne might not be able to join right now, so let me take you to that document. One document has been prepared for capacity building and technical assistance, namely this is document 14. You may recall that in the decision by the COP, decision 3.8, the Conference of the Parties emphasized the relevance of using as appropriate regional, sub-regional, and national arrangements, and also existing regional and sub-regional centers for delivery of capacity building and technical assistance. That decision also asked the Secretariat to compile a report based on all of the on submissions received in this regard in terms of capacity building and technical assistance, both from these centers and any other party in that regard. Therefore, as you peruse this document, you will see that the note provides both this report as well as information on the capacity building activities of the Secretariat, which very often, in many cases, include engagement with and through regional, sub-regional, and national arrangements and other partners. And also, there is a section on the activities of the Secretariat in the next biennium. I'd also like to draw to your attention that if you would like to look at the specific submissions that have been received, there are 13 that have been received. They have been received from 13 parties and are available as INF 23. With that, may I just look into the room to see if there's any specific question in this regard? I think the next slide. If I could have the next slide. Yes. While looking into the room, I'd like to invite you, if you have any questions for clarifications, to record these in the chat. But as overview, the COP is invited to consider all of the information that has been provided in the submission. You may recall submissions had also been invited and recorded at COP-2. And further, the document also calls for or recalls, of course, that parties may also wish to note that in their regular reporting, in their Article 21 reporting requirements, there is the option or opportunity to provide supplementary information, both on the receipt of capacity building and technical assistance or needs for capacity building and technical assistance. With that, are there any specific queries to the documents on capacity building and technical assistance? I don't appear to see anyone. If another question comes to mind later, please simply type it into the chat. And now we go to another topic, namely that of Secretariat, and I'd like to invite my colleague Lara Ogni-Bennett to do the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia, and good day, everyone. I would like to draw your attention to item 4J, the Secretariat, and to two documents. Document 4/20, titled Report of the Implementation of Decision 311 on Enhanced Cooperation between the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention and the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions. In this document, the Secretariat provides an overview of the implementation of the COP-3 decision 3/11 on enhanced cooperation between the Secretariats, and in particular on the organization of COP-4 and on the work of the Task Force on Programmatic Cooperation, comprising of Minamata Secretariat, BRS Secretariat, and the Chemicals and Health branch of UNEP. The co-chairs of the task force, in particular, finalized an initial list of areas of cooperation, and the two executive secretaries established inter-secretariat working groups on administrative matters, programmatic matters, scientific and technical matters, and technical assistance matters, and also identified lead officers in the respective entities for the various areas of cooperation on which the proposed working groups would focus. The task force produced a report drafted by the co-chairs in December 2020 and endorsed by the heads of the entities in March 2021, describing the joint framework for future collaboration that had been agreed between the three entities in the context of the implementation of the decision 3/11. The report is set out in the annex to the document. Also, I would like to refer to an additional INF document, number 17, which is a joint report on cooperation and coordination between the secretariats of the Minamata Convention and of the BRS Conventions, which also highlights areas of collaboration between the secretariats. I will stop here. Thank you very much, and then back to my.
Just to stop here for a moment and to ask if there's any specific question for clarification that you would have, please type it in the chat box so that we can see it clearly. I do see that somebody had written into the Q&A box, and I'm just needing to clarify to ensure I understand, but certainly observers are also very welcome to ask questions in the chat box if that's what's meant. So please feel free if you would like to make an observation or if you'd like to contribute. a question for clarification also. If it means, if you are referring to something different in terms of the overall agenda of the COP, then perhaps I need to understand a bit more the request and could then try to speak to it. But just to check once more in the virtual room if there is any question specific on the item on Secretariat. No? Then it is my pleasure to again give the floor to Lara to take us to the next document and the next topic, which is item 4L, and that is gender. Please, Lara.
Thank you, Claudia. The next agenda item we'll consider now is item 4L on gender. And the relevant document for your consideration is document 4/22 titled Mainstreaming Gender. In the document, we provide an overview of the activities that the Secretariat has undertaken in the field of gender mainstreaming in the work of the Secretariat, since COP-3 has identified gender as an activity area for our program work under activity 13. In particular, with the generous financial support of Sweden, the Secretariat carried out several activities, including the production and publication of this publication on gender equality and Mercury, which is available on our website. And in January 2021, the Secretariat also developed a gender roadmap for the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The gender roadmap includes a list of prioritized actions to be undertaken by the Secretariat to ensure that principles of gender equality are firmly embedded in the activities, projects, and programs it undertakes. The roadmap is contained in the Annex 2 of the document. The two top priorities were identified in the roadmap: the development of a gender action plan under the convention for mainstreaming gender consideration into all aspects of the work under the convention, so also including parties and other stakeholders, with clear indicators for monitoring progress. And the second priority was the appointment of a gender focal point within the Secretariat to coordinate all gender-related activities. And I was nominated as gender focal point to help coordinate activities within the Secretariat. Next slide, please. You will see in the draft decision, in the document also a draft decision for adoption. And this was the previous slide, but anyway, in the document also comprises of a draft decision where the further support from parties is envisaged to further elaborate activities within the Secretariat under the framework of the roadmap and possibly of a gender action plan as laid out in the document. Thank you very much, Elsa.
Thank you, Lara. This is a new area of work in some ways. It is not new for Minamata to work on the issue of gender, but it is now an aspect of work that we have prioritized thanks to these, as Lara outlined, generous help from Sweden, and thus this work is presented to the COP. May I look into the room just to see if there's any specific question on this document, the gender roadmap, or any other item related to gender or the draft decision that is before the COP? It seems we don't have any question to this document. Thank you very much, Lara. But we still need Lara for the next couple of slides, because also at COP5 is item 5, Mistakenly, there's an L on this particular slide. It's item 5 on international cooperation and coordination, and a document has been prepared by the Secretariat for us for that, which Lara will again introduce, as well as some other documents. Please, Lara, do come back.
Thank you, Claudia. Yes, indeed, on the agenda item 5, apologies for the slide, called International Coordination and Cooperation. Relevant documents are document 4/23, titled International Cooperation and Coordination, where the Secretariat provides an overview on all activities undertaken by the Secretariat to cooperate and coordinate as appropriate with other entities, particularly in the chemicals and waste clusters, including 2 joint studies with the BRS Secretariat. So it's like a chapeau document that frames the item of international cooperation, and it further then specified by information documents that relate to specific activities that relate to international cooperation and coordination, namely INF document 13, where the joint study by the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention on Mercury and the BRS conventions entitled Interlinkages between the Chemicals and Waste Multilateral Environmental Agreements and Biodiversity is provided. Similarly, in INF document 14, we have included the joint study between the Minamata and BRS Secretariats on chemicals, waste and climate change interlinkages and potential for coordinated action. Next slide, please. You will see a list of other INF documents on several activities undertaken under this agenda item that are relevant to this agenda item of international cooperation and coordination. That includes INF document 15, with the report of the Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Programme to the COP, to COP-4. Then INF document 16, which is the report on activities undertaken within the Global Mercury Partnership of UNEP. Then INF 17, a joint report on collaboration and coordination between the Secretariats of Minamata Convention and BRS. I already mentioned this INF document under the agenda item of Secretariat. It relates again to activities that have been undertaken in partnership with the Secretariats of Minamata and BRS. Various area activity focus areas. Then we have INF document 18, which is a report on cooperative activities with the World Health Organization and the International Labour Organization. Then we have INF 19, the report of the activities on mercury and relevant international bodies. So there's a list of other activities carried out by other international organizations in the document. And finally, INF document 20, which provides an update on the strategic approach to international chemicals management and the intersessional process, considering the strategic approach and the sound management of chemicals and waste beyond 2020. Stop here, and thank you very much, and I'm available in case you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Lara. I'm again inviting, of course, we are happy to speak to any of the documents that we are happy to speak to the Secretariat prepared documents that have been prepared. As you will have seen, some documents are prepared by our partners, and where we can, we would be very happy to either put you in contact with partners, but otherwise, please do peruse this wide overview of many that are working on Mercury and working with us on Mercury. Just to record, there's also a draft decision in that document. It is attached in the annex and could be for consideration by the COP. And so may we pause here and just see if there are indeed any questions on the item of international cooperation and collaboration. And just again to recognize that this item really tries to show just how many partners are engaged in this endeavor, but also to give a better or a wider view on the entire chemicals and waste cluster. I don't believe I see any particular questions or items raised. So then I think we can progress to the next one. Thank you very much, Lara. What we wanted to do here just under is to return to item 2. On Monday, I had introduced some documents, but I would like to return very deliberately to the item of organization of work. Firstly, to underline that COP-4, when it convened online in November last year, adopted the agenda for the 4th meeting. In other words, the agenda is now adopted. And that's also why some documents are about to appear or have already appeared as revised versions, so as to update not only the inclusion of the agreed date of the meeting in Bali in March, but also to revise and include the items of decision that have already been taken at COP 4.1. You may recall that 2 decisions were taken, first on the venue and date, on the date of the resumed meeting, and secondly on the program of work and budget. And so the annotated agenda revision is about to appear. There's also a revision to the issues and information for the attention of the Conference of the Parties and for the list of documents, because in fact we have, as I introduced earlier, 2 addenda that are new, and they are already on the website for the COP 4.2 consideration on the budget 2023. In addition, as was indicated yesterday, there will also be another addenda on the GEF 8 replenishment cycle, and we will also, as outlined on Monday, have another addenda on the effectiveness evaluation work, an addenda that collates the information on the current ongoing consultative session that COP 4.1 had agreed to in preparation of COP 4.2. And may I also just point out here, as referred to earlier, your attention already to the meeting report that was adopted at the end of COP 4.1, in other words, the meeting report of the online segment that we had in November. And just as orientation, the annotated agenda, of course, gives an overview of the agenda items. It has not been revised for the first part, as that has happened, but it has been slightly revised and updated for the second part. It serves as an overall reference to all the documents that you should have, and it's mirrored here in our presentation of all of the documents that you'd have per agenda item. And may I specifically draw your attention to the tentative schedule of work that will be in this document and that we have shown earlier, and is also available directly for download from the website. And then on the right-hand side of the slide, may I draw your attention to the document called Issues and Information for the Intention of the COP. This is a document, as I had outlined in earlier briefings. It's a new form of making information available to you, information not only on the agenda items per segment, but also other information that we as Secretariat need to bring to your attention that would not form part of already stated areas of work or documents that have are found under either item 4, matters for consideration, or another agenda item in the COP preparations. So I want to draw your attention to 2 matters. The first is in that document, in other words, document 2, the document called Issues and Information for the Attention of the Conference of the Parties at its 4th meeting. There is a paragraph 8 that mentions that, of course, we have the traditional Secretariat report. However, we have called it, it's 4.9, it's called Progress in the Implementation of the Program of Work in the Past Biennium, and it sets out for your overview the work that has been achieved in the last biennium. And specifically, I'd also like to draw your attention to Inf 2, This information document shows you not only information on the latest ratifications and all such matters, but also on all notifications or other pieces of information received from parties by the Secretariat. It is an important document to look at to ensure that if your country, if you as a party have sent us certain notifications, to verify and double check that we indeed have it on our register, and that we also, of course, then have it as needed on our public front on the website, where we have a dedicated notification page. May I also draw your attention to the fact that INF2 also includes updates on MIAs, in other words, how many have been received, and this document is also in fact being revised to include even the MIAs that have been completed by the end of January of this year, as well as some NAPs, National Action Plans on ASGM, that have come in. So we hope to have this document as revised version for you with effect of all information received at the end of January up in the next couple of days. But there's another matter we would like to draw your attention to in this particular document, and I'd like to call on my colleague Esaku Toda to present the next two slides. Esaku, over to you, please.
Thank you, Claudia. So as Claudia mentioned, I'm not presenting a specific document, but I'm going to refer to one small paragraph that is included in the document 4/2, or issues and information for the attention of COP. And before going to that, this bit small slide is about the a summary of major timelines stipulated in the convention. And the highlighted text is about the articles that are not included in the agenda item 4 of COP4. There's in the article 8 on emissions provides that the parties should submit a articulate that the deadline for the implementation plan on emissions is 4 years after the entry into force, that is 2021, at the earliest. And there was a small error. The next one, 2022 and 2023, should be 2022 as well. There are Article 8 has another two other deadlines, which is 5 years after the entry into force, which is 2022. This is about the taking measures on new sources and the development of emission inventories. Next slide, please. So the document 4/2 has a small paragraph on the information on the implementation of provisions not covered in agenda item 4 of the fourth meeting. And it says that COP may wish to consider being informed of some matters on the implementation of provisions not covered in item 4, which may include how the COP will consider the information it will receive by COP5. And it further exemplifies some possible pieces of information. The first one is about about Article 3, the supply sources and trade. And there's no specific deadline, but parties are supposed to report under Article 21 on that to show that the requirements of Article 3 have been met. And the next two bullet points were the Article 8 emissions that I referred to. For Article 3, all the relevant guidance documents and formats were adopted at COP1. And also for Article 8, all the guidance documents were adopted at COP1. So these two articles were not on the agenda item for COP4, COP2, 3, and 4. But given that there may be some information coming, we included this small passage in the document 4/2. The small box on the bottom left notes that none of such information has been received by the time that INF2 was prepared. That was last year. We may have received some information through the Article 21 reporting, but we are in the process of verifying the information we have received. So such information may not be readily available for review by COP4, but as noted in this paragraph, the consideration by COP4 may include the consideration of how the COP will consider the information it will receive by COP5. I think I will hand it over to Claudia now. Thanks.
Thank you, Esaku. These are just small parts of one document, but we felt it important to also bring this to your attention so as not to lose this information. And I would like to just look into the room if there is any specific question or query or any clarification needed on this matter. If not, or if anything else comes to mind later, do obviously feel free just to reach out to us and we shall try to endeavor to be of assistance. We're moving speedily, but we're moving to another area. It's also extremely important for the organization of work, namely item C, election of officers. And may I again invite my colleague Lara to present the relevant document. Please, Lara.
Thank you, Claudia. Indeed, the agenda item C on election of officers. Relevant document is document 4/1 add 2, titled election of officers. Three main items to discuss under this agenda item. Firstly, the election of the Bureau of COP5. So COP 4.2 is expected to elect the officers for the next Bureau. To that end, 2 nominations from each United Nations regional group should be submitted to the Secretariat no later than the second day of COP 4.2. In accordance with both paragraph 3 of Article 22 of the Rules of Procedure and past practice of following an alphabetical order. For the purposes of regional rotation, the president of the Bureau for COP5 is expected to be elected from among the Eastern Europe states. The second area of importance in this document is the election of the new members of the Implementation and Compliance Committee. In particular, COP 4.2 is expected to elect for 2 terms 9 new members of the committee to replace those members whose period of office is about to expire at the end of COP 4.2. Nominations from each United Nations regional group should be submitted to the Secretariat no later than the second day of the in-person segment, so the upcoming second segment of the COP. And finally, COP 4.2 is also expected to confirm, based on the nominations received from the regional groups, 10 members of the CIP governing board. Stop here and remain available in case you have questions on it.
Indeed. So as an info stop, are there any particular questions that you may have on the election of these important functions, both the COP Bureau, but also the Implementation and Compliance Committee and lastly, the governing board of the specific international program. If you would like to know who the current members are, I'm sure you are known to them, but they are known to you. But we have, of course, all the details on our website as well, both in terms of our current bureau, our current board for the SIP, our current members of the ICC, and that may be helpful for your overview. I see a question, and I'm actually glad to receive the question. Thank you, Simon, about the name Central and Eastern Europe has been changed to Eastern Europe. This is a matter of UN standard language that UN editors have edited our documents to standardize with other convention documentation and other UN documentation. We had been apparently one of the last of the UNEP conventions to make this change. BRS made the change to Eastern Europe at their previous COP, and we have, the editors made that change, naming convention change, also now in our documents. So you will see this also in BRS COPs and in our COPs as well. COP documents as well. Would there be perhaps any other question? Or is there any further elaboration you may require on this matter? And just again to reiterate the deadline by which names are to be received so that they can be considered and adopted or agreed on for the COP within good time. If you need any more information, please reach out to us and we shall try to be helpful in that regard. Otherwise, we could move to the next item, and I thank Lara very much. We wanted to just quickly also stop at the rules of procedure and also the financial rules for the Minamata Convention. You may have seen that in the Monday session, the proposed Monday session of the tentative schedule of work, there is an item 3 on the rules of procedure for the COP, and also the item 4 item on the financial rules. And here just to explain very briefly that both for the rules of procedure and for the financial COP, while they have been adopted, there is some remaining work on them. And as such, it is procedure to certainly bring them up at the beginning of the next meeting. So let me first speak shortly to the rules of procedure. The rules of procedure document that has been prepared by the Secretariat for you is document 343/3, and it recalls that the rules of procedure were adopted as the very first decision of the COP at its first meeting in 2017, but that there is that there are some brackets in Rule 25. And just in case you may not be familiar with the particular rule, it is a text that relates to the option of taking a decision on matters of substance by means of voting should all other efforts of reaching consensus fail. COP1 did not conclude on this. COP2 also considered this matter and did not conclude, and COP3 looked at this matter and deferred it. And here, therefore, for your information, in case this was not clear to you, this matter would be tabled again at COP4 at COP4. But to your background, it was deferred by both the previous 2 COPs. And very similarly, if I may have the next slide, the financial rules of the convention. This document is document 21. The full title of the financial rules are the financial rules for the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention, its subsidiary bodies, and the Secretariat of the Convention. This was, the financial rules were adopted as a decision 10 in COP1, also in 2017, of course, and the COP and Convention Secretariat operates under these financial rules, but there is some remaining matter in terms of the procedure for allocation of funds from the Special Trust Fund for facilitating participation of parties in meetings. This matter was not concluded at 1, at 2 and 3 also deferred the consideration of this. With that, I just wish to record that these 2 items are part of the formal proceedings of the COP, and you may find more information in those documents. And may I look into the room if we've missed, I think I have missed a question, in fact, of the previous item, which was on the election of officers. And just may I perhaps ask my colleague to go back to the slide and for Lara to reiterate the deadline for receiving. Thank you, Ms. Yoshizaki. We don't have the second last day as a deadline. We, in fact, have in the rules of procedure of the COP that it should be by the second day. And these rules, because they were designed to apply also to subsidiary body, is the same rule that goes to the ICC. As the SIP is not traditionally thought of as a subsidiary body, it doesn't have that same language. But for practical considerations, we would urge all names to come forward at the same time or as soon as possible, so that the that decisions in one area perhaps don't hold up decisions in another. So we do not, to clarify, have a rule for the SIP that the second last day is sufficient. And we would really urge you to be able to use also your regional meeting times and such to try to be able to arrive at the names you want to put forward. And just to reiterate, it is a confirmation of the names for the SIP, while it is an election of the names for the Bureau and the ICC. I hope that has clarified the matter. And if there's no other question, I would like to resume where I laid off. And in fact, we would be coming now just to some logistical information, and just use this opportunity just to ask if there's any other comment or question on any of the documents. But if I do not see any, then we hope we've been sufficiently clear, or if you would like more information, as I mentioned repeatedly, just reach out to us. So may I ask my colleague, my first colleague, Lara Ognibene, to let me outline, of course, that our information is available on our website, but since the regional meetings are upcoming, we would like to brief you a bit about that. Lara, please, over to you.
Thank you, Claudia. Yes, please, next slide. I can take you through the schedule for the upcoming regional preparatory meeting for COP 4.2, which will begin next week. On Monday, 7th February, next Monday, we'll have the first one, which is for the Asia Pacific region. It will be conducted like all preparatory meetings before the COP online, and the working language will be English for that region. This will be followed on the next day by the regional meeting for the Africa region, which will be also online, and where interpretation will be provided in English and French. Then we'll have on the 10th the regional meeting for the Eastern European states, and where no interpretation will be provided. And again, it will be held online. And finally, we have 2 days set aside for the GRULAC, so the Latin American and the Caribbean region, regional preparatory meeting, which are the 9th and the 11th of February. The meeting will be online and interpretation will be provided in English and Spanish. After this preparatory meeting, the Secretariat has organized in-person regional meetings in Bali at the margins of COP-4.2. So these will take place on 2 days for the GRULAC region on 19th and 20th March 2022 in Bali at the venue. And interpretation again will be provided in English and Spanish on an exceptional basis, since the Secretariat was not able to organize in-person regional meetings for the preparation of the COP this time. Same approach will be followed for the Africa region, who will have 2-day meetings, will have regional in-person preparatory meetings over 2 days, the 19th and the 20th of March. And again, for the same reason, interpretation will be provided in English and French. These 2 regions indeed requested the Secretariat to provide interpretation to the deliberations. And then we'll have also in-person regional preparatory meetings on the 20th of March for Asia Pacific region without interpretation, and also for the Eastern European state region, again on the same day, in person in Bali and without interpretation. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Just to say, we hope you have received all of your required credentials or login credentials for that. If you have any queries in this regard, please direct them to the Secretariat. But may I don't see any queries now. If something else comes up on regional meetings, perhaps after Alex has explained on registration, if there's still any other information needed for participation for regional meetings, Alex and Lara could revert on that. But Alex, could you perhaps take the next slide on registration? Over to you.
Thank you, Claudia. Good day, everyone. So registration for second segment of COP-4 was opened on 17 January and will be opened, will be closed on 11th of February. So basically 1 week more. All parties and accredited observers to Minamata meetings have been sent invitation registration emails that contain unique link that would access the Kronos online system and the instructions attached to that message. Parties and observers are invited to register their delegates for participation in person in Bali with the limitation of 6 delegates per party and 2 per observer, country or organization. And we are talking here about in-person presence, but there is also a possibility to register additional delegates for attending the meeting online. Here is to note that all registered delegates, regardless of their mode of attendance, will receive connection details to view the plenary and contact groups proceedings. Also, parties are invited to inform the Secretariat if there is any possible issue with the traveling to Bali due to COVID-19 travel restrictions. We'll do with the Indonesia as much as possible to accommodate those requests. Please bear in mind to submit those requests by close of registration. After the registration will be closed, all participants, all confirmed participants, will receive a confirmation email with further instructions. This comes due to the need to evaluate of all pre-registered delegates, and only after that we'll be able to confirm the participation. Yeah, one thing here is to add that there is no limit for online attendance, and to specify on needed documents to submit. Besides the online registration, we have to receive a delegation letter from Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Permanent Mission in Geneva for parties, and delegation letter from observers signed by head of the institution. For parties also, it's important to know that the deadline of 11 February is very important to respect if they wish to apply for financial support for one delegate per party, developing country, or with economy in transition. On the right, you see a screenshot of the registration platform on the page of a delegate that you can edit your personal details, you can choose the mode of attendance and the role that you are given by the delegation from your organization. Please let us know if you haven't received the invitation email, because online registration is also part of the full process. If you have any other questions, we're here to respond, but also please use this email to contact us for any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. I see some questions are being answered by Lara, including those related to not only participation and registration for COP 4.2, but also the regional meeting. So please have a look there. Alex, there is there was one question coming from Joanna Felix. Will any member of a party's delegation be allowed to speak virtually in person, or is this only the head of delegation alternate head? Could you reply to that?
As per online, we have provisions that the meeting proceeding will be only in viewing mode. As per speaking in person, I would ask the help from my colleague Lara in terms of who is able to speak on behalf of the country.
Yeah, let me just also say that in regular in-person meetings, it is of course up to the party who speaks. This question might actually come from our online experience where the platform only allowed us to be able to register 2 speakers. And in that case, it usually was the head of delegation and an alternate. But in a regular in-person meeting, there is no specification of who can speak. It is the role of it is of course to the party to decide. So that is in terms of in-person participation, whoever is in the room and can be called upon can speak. Lara, would you like to add anything to that?
No.
Okay, but Lara, while we have you, there seems to, I'm not sure if this relates now to the online for the registration to COP 4.2 or the regional meeting, but there seem to be 2 deadlines in a place. One is the 11th of February and one is the 6th. Alex, can you just clarify what that may be referring to?
What? Yes, sorry. This is it's not a deadline. This is sorry, it's a confusion. This is the limits of participation in the in-person participation for parties /2 per observer. So it's separate. Sorry for the confusion. So it's not a date, it's a party / observer.
Thanks.
And Claudia, if
Please.
I may, I see some questions regarding registration for regional meetings. So let me maybe just try and clarify. So invitations have been sent to participate to the online regional meetings for COP 4.2 to all national focal points and also to observers who have attended previous meetings of the COP. So it went out widely. We have already sent the link to join the meetings to those delegates who already participated in the COP 4.1 regional preparatory meetings, assuming that the delegation will be the same. However, we do welcome additional nominations from regions. You can simply send us an email. Nomination can be done by email, but please kindly specify the contact details of the additional delegates as well as the email address in particular so that we can share the link with any additional delegate you may have. And similarly, observers have been invited to participate and have been nominated. Representatives have been nominated by. I hope this is clear. In case you have any questions, please let me know. You can send your nominations. I put the link in the chat to the MEA Minamata meetings email address. Thank you very much.
There are some other questions, but just to summarize and clarify, there is no limitation on how many could join online. There is just the request from the host country to try to keep your delegation on your on-site delegation in the in-person meeting to no larger than 6 for parties and 2 for observers. This is very important because we realize that you may wanted to have brought others, and please be assured that you simply add them to your registration and they will be able to receive the online link. Let me also say that I think it was also mentioned today or certainly yesterday by Alex that regardless of whether you will be in person in Bali or whether you will be participating from further away online, you will receive a link. So that please keep that in mind. We have some more questions. So Alex and Lara, how to register for the online discussion platform. Leslie, I mean, that's from the WHO. There are 2 online document forums. One is on budget, which is open to parties, and then we have another on technical. It may be that you are interested in the one on technical, and Esaku, perhaps you could take that question to explain how if indeed I've understood Leslie's question correctly, how the online document forum is being made available. Esaku?
Thank you for that question. The link to participate in the online document forum, which will open on the 14th of February, will be sent to all the registered participants from parties and observers. And if you are not, if any parties or observers wish to involve experts who are not going to attend the COP 4.2 itself, can send an email to the Secretariat to so that we can add that person manually. Thank you.
Claudius, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. um, I hope that Esaku's explanation on the document platform speaks to Leslie's question, if indeed that is what Leslie was seeking clarification on. Otherwise, we shall revert to you directly. We have a couple of others, and some of them are related to nomination. So our next slide that Lara will present is on credentials, and she could speak to it there. I do see one question also. Lara, perhaps you could also build that in when you are speaking about credentials, which is may observers speak in in-person meetings. I also see one question from Canada. If one is participating virtually, do we only have 2 speakers per party for the plenary? Is it the same as for contact groups? So just to say that the contact groups and the plenary can be viewed online, but anybody inside the plenary or anybody inside the contact group, when called upon, has the ability to speak. It is not a matter of that only certain persons could speak in plenary if they are in Bali. But Lara, perhaps I could, unless Alex sees any other question directly on registration, maybe we could go to credentials, but if there's some other item to add to, we can come back. We also have noticed, I see a comment here that somebody has not received their unique links. We have noticed, or we have had feedback that at times it has gone into spam filters. If that is not the case, we shall be in touch with you directly and investigate. So thank you for alerting us. Over to Lara.
Yes, thank you very much. Maybe I will just address a couple of questions that I see into the chat, and then I'll go into the details of credentials. But on the ability of observers to speak in in-person meetings, of course, it depends on which in-person meetings. In plenary, observers that will attend the COP 4.2 can speak when invited by the president. The observers are usually given the floor after all interventions by parties are exhausted. So in that case, if the president invites observers to speak, they can certainly speak. And also observers can speak in contact groups when they are participating. And also on the participation of delegates remotely, there's a question about what if the head of delegation is connected, participates online, and will the other delegates be able to take the floor and fully participate? Yes, all delegates who are nominated in the credentials are able to participate to the proceedings of the meeting in person. They will be able to take the floor, to participate to the discussion, to participate in contact groups. So yes, I hope this answers the questions that I could see in the chat that may be relevant to the general, to the participation of to the COP. Specifically on credentials, you have seen the information in the invitation letter. It's also available on the website. As you know, credentials for the head of delegation and alternate representatives and advisors, the delegation for parties are to be issued by the head of state or government or by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. There are sample credentials are available on our website in all the languages. So please use them if you need them. I wanted to specify that the Bureau of COP4 agreed to accept both original and electronic versions of credentials. So please do share with us PDF copies on credentials in advance. That would really facilitate the clearance process by the Secretariat. We strongly encourage you to send us your credentials, either original or electronic versions, at the latest by at 6 p.m. on Monday, 21st of February. Parties who have already submitted their credentials for participation in both COP-4 and COP-4.1 and COP-4.2 do not need to resubmit credentials unless there is a change in the delegation list. In that case, they need to submit new updated credentials with the full list of delegates that will attend the upcoming segment in Bali, regardless of their mode of participation, in person or online, as before. And finally, the latest, let's say, deadline for submitting credentials is 24 hours after the opening of the COP. Kindly, as a latest deadline, please submit your credentials by then, so that the Secretariat can compile and finalize the credentials report, which will be submitted for consideration by the COP during. Thank you very much. I stop here, but I, of course, remain available should you have any questions.
We do hope that we have been able to give you as much information as possible on all the documents that have been prepared for the COP and for the substantive preparatory processes in the run-up to COP 4.2. And here, just as overview again, of course, we have next week the different regional meetings meeting. We then have the online budget forum and the online technical documents forum opening on the 14th of February. The budget forum will be open until the 4th of March, and the the technical documents forum a little bit longer until the 11th of March. We briefed yesterday which of the documents are available there. Please do join there and bring questions and queries there as much as possible as well. Just to underline that the registration deadline is the 11th of February, and it is for both in-person participation and for online. Should you need to add persons later for the reasons that may be obvious, then of course the Secretariat would endeavor to help you as much as possible in this regard. But this registration deadline is very important for all of those that are funded participants, so that the Secretariat can arrange the travel participation of the funded participants. So this deadline is immensely important in that regard. But just back to matters of substantive preparation, just to draw your attention to the meeting, the information session on the 23rd of February on national reporting and compliance, and on the 24th of February, which is on the financial mechanism. And very importantly, and as mentioned today, on the 9th of March, an information session on budget. And also to say that side event applications are warmly appreciated and welcomed. The pre-side events are expected to be online pre-COP in the week of the 7th to the 11th of March. And please send your proposals in by Friday, the 11th. And also please mark your date. Of course, the 8th of March is International Women's Day, and we shall have a special event that day on promoting gender. You've heard of the gender plan today and the efforts of the Secretariat to bring all of this work into fruition as well. So we hope that that date is also a special mark in your calendar. With that, we have come to the end of today's session. Please do have a look at our website for any other sessions that you may be interested in, and past sessions, we put the recordings up as well as the links. With that, I remain, and with all of my colleagues, thank you for your participation, and also, of course, your concern and your patience with the details of the logistics being worked out. We hope earnestly to be able to give you the clarity that you also require as soon as possible. With that, thank you very, very much, and we see you soon in one of all the different meetings. Stay well on behalf of all of the Secretariat. Bye-bye.